The valley was silent in a way that felt wrong, like the air itself was holding its breath. Soldiers from many alien clans stood on the broken ground, their weapons shaking in their hands. None of them wanted to admit it, but every single warrior was terrified. They had come to trap a monster, but now the monster had trapped them. Far above the valley, a burning shadow appeared in the sky. Smoke curled around the shape as it fell, growing bigger and bigger. The ground shook when the creature finally crashed down. Rocks flew, dust rose, and a roar exploded through the mountains like thunder breaking open the world. It was the war dragon, the creature feared by armies, the beast that destroyed ships with a single breath. Some said he was older than empires. Others claimed he was made from fire itself. No one truly knew what he was. But everyone agreed on one thing: no warrior could go near him and live. Even now, wounded and bleeding, he looked like the end of everything. His wings were torn, one eye burned like a dying star, and smoke leaked from his jaws with every slow breath. But even hurt like this, he was still the most dangerous being anyone had ever seen. Warriors formed a wide circle around him, but no one stepped forward. They could hear their own hearts pounding louder than their armor. A single move could mean death. The dragon lifted his head and growled, and the closest fighters fell back. Dropping their spears in fear, he swung his massive tail, smashing a boulder into dust just to warn them to stay away. Every soldier knew they should attack, but not one of them dared. Even the bravest felt their legs go numb. The dragon was hurt, yes, but he was not weak. A wounded beast was 10 times more dangerous than a healthy one. Then, something strange happened. In the silent crowd, a small figure moved. Slow steps, soft footsteps, no sound of armor. The warriors turned and stared, confused. It was a human girl. Thin, quiet, and without any weapon. She wore simple clothes and carried a small bag in her hands. Her eyes were calm, but her face showed sadness, not fear. No one understood why she was walking toward a creature that could kill her in 1 second. A few soldiers whispered, "Is she mad?" Another one said, "She will die before she even touches him." One of the commanders shouted, "Girl, stop! Go back, he will burn you alive." But she did not stop. She only kept walking, step by step, toward the dragon. The dragon's huge head slowly turned toward her. His good eye glowed bright as fire. His injured eye leaked smoke. He opened his jaws and let out a deep warning sound. The ground trembled. Still, she did not stop. Her hands shook a little, but she kept them low and empty, showing she carried no weapon. There was something different about the way she looked at the dragon. The other warriors saw a monster, but she saw something else. She saw the pain in his wounds, the scars across his wings, the way he struggled to breathe. The dragon tilted his head, confused. Why was this small creature not afraid? Why did she walk closer instead of running away? She whispered something, but her voice was so soft no one could hear. It didn't matter, because the dragon seemed to hear it anyway. His growl lowered, his wings dropped a little, and the fire in his throat dimmed. The warriors gasped. This was impossible. The war dragon should have attacked her already. But instead, he was letting her come closer. One of the alien soldiers shouted, "This is magic." Another whispered, "No, this is something else. She is different." The girl stopped just a few steps from the dragon. The beast's breath blew hot air across her face, yet she didn't move away. She slowly reached into her small bag and took out herbs and cloth. Simple healing tools, nothing powerful, nothing dangerous, just kindness. The dragon watched her with an eye full of smoke and pain. His body trembled. He had been wounded many times in battle, but no one had ever tried to help him. The valley remained silent. A moment that should never have happened was happening right before their eyes. A silent human girl stood in front of the galaxy's most feared creature, and instead of attacking her, The warriors could not understand what they were seeing moments ago. They believed the human girl would be burned alive in a heartbeat, but now, the war dragon feared across worlds, lowered his giant head in front of her, like a wounded animal seeking comfort. Many soldiers held their breath, waiting for the moment the beast changed his mind and snapped her in half. But the moment did not come. Instead, something even stranger happened. The girl stepped closer, slow and gentle. She moved like someone walking toward a hurt dog. Not a living mountain of fire. Her eyes stayed soft. Filled with worry instead of fear, she lifted her hand and touched his cracked scale. The dragon let out a low rumble, but it wasn't a warning. It sounded almost like pain mixed with relief. The alien commander whispered, "Why her? Why only her?" But the girl didn't look back. She kept her full attention on the dragon's wound. Smoke leaked from the deep cut on his neck. The skin around it glowed red-hot from his inner fire. Yet she didn't take her hand away. She pressed the herbs gently, and the mixture crackled as the heat met the leaves. The dragon flinched but didn't strike. His claws dug into the ground, shaking the valley, but his head remained still. Letting her help him, it was as if he understood the girl wasn't here to hurt him. The other warriors were completely frozen. Some even forgot to hold their weapons. They watched the girl crush herbs with her fingers and apply them with slow, firm movements. She wasn't a healer. She wasn't a soldier. She didn't even carry fancy medicine, just simple plants from the forest. But the way she worked was careful and full of purpose, like someone who had done this many times before. When she tied the cloth around the dragon's wound, her hands trembled, not from fear, but from sadness. She lifted her eyes and looked directly at the creature. Her lips moved, but her voice was still too soft for anyone to hear. The dragon, however, made a soft sound, almost like he understood every word she whispered. It confused everyone even more. A younger alien soldier spoke. "This girl, she can feel his pain," another added nervously. "No, creatures like him can't understand kindness. They only understand war." But their words felt weak, lost in the sight in front of them. The dragon slowly lowered his eye level to match hers. He blinked once, a long, heavy blink that made the ground shake as if his whole body was exhausted. He didn't roar. He didn't attack. He just watched her, breathing heavily. The girl reached out again and touched his snout. Her fingers were tiny compared to his massive head. Yet the dragon didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned slightly into her touch. His breath warmed the entire valley. But she stood firm. Her clothes fluttered. Her hair lifted in the hot wind, but her feet stayed planted like roots in the earth. A moment like this had never existed in the galaxy. Everyone was witnessing something ancient, something powerful, something more real than fear. A human girl, silent and gentle, had become the only being who could stand next to the war dragon without shaking. When she finished cleaning the wound, she stepped back slowly. The dragon let out a long, low breath that sounded like gratitude. His tail, which had destroyed countless machines, curled lightly around her, not to trap her, but to protect her from the wind and dust. The soldiers panicked at that gesture. Is he claiming her? Is he choosing her? Why her of all people? But none of them had the courage to step forward and pull her away. The dragon's eye flashed, warning anyone who moved too close. The girl did not smile. She only lowered her head respectfully, as if she understood the trust he was giving her. She placed one hand on her heart and then on his scale again, sign language of gratitude her father once taught her. A deep memory stirred inside the dragon. He narrowed his eyes, trying to understand. Something about her felt familiar, not her face, not her size, but her spirit. Her calm courage reminded him of someone long gone, someone who once saved him long ago. The dragon studied her silently, breathing slow. Something inside him shifted, something old and buried, trust. For the first time in centuries, the war dragon was allowing someone close, Not a king, not a general, not a warrior, but a silent human girl who looked at him, not as a monster. The valley stayed silent as the girl's hand rested gently on the dragon's wounded scale. It was a soft touch, small and fragile, but in that moment, it carried more power than any weapon in the galaxy. Every warrior held their breath, waiting for the dragon to explode in rage. They expected fire, death, chaos, anything except what actually happened. The war dragon closed his eyes, not in anger, not in pain, but in peace. A creature known for burning entire war fleets was now leaning into the touch of a quiet human girl. It was impossible, unreal, unthinkable. The alien commander stumbled backward, whispering, "This cannot be. This cannot be real." His voice cracked like he was watching the laws of nature break apart. The dragon's breathing slowed, deep and heavy. His body, massive enough to crush mountains, relaxed slightly under the girl's trembling hand. She stroked the scaled skin slowly, as if comforting a hurt child. Her other hand held the herbs. But she didn't rush to heal him yet. She wanted him to know she was there to help, not to hurt. The dragon's tail, once swinging with fury, rested quietly on the ground. Dust rose from its weight. The warriors stared, not knowing if they were witnessing a miracle or a trap. No one had ever dared to touch the war dragon. Even his own kind stayed away when he was injured. Dragons did not accept help. They healed alone or died alone. That was their way. But this human girl, small, silent, and gentle, had broken a rule older than any empire. She stepped closer until she could reach more of his wound. The scalded flesh glowed like burning metal. She pressed another bundle of crushed herbs into the deep cut. The dragon let out a deep rumble, but instead of moving away, he stretched his neck a little more, making it easier for her to work as she treated him. A large group of spectators gathered on the cliffs above. Traders, travelers, villagers, curious fighters. They had heard the news spreading through the valley like wildfire. A human girl touched the war dragon and lived. She is healing him. The war dragon trusts her. No one believed it until they saw it with their own eyes. Some people even recorded the scene on their devices. Knowing this would become one of the greatest stories in galactic history, the dragon's eye opened again. Glowing bright gold, he watched the girl carefully, studying her soft movements, studying her breathing, studying the calm silence around her. Humans were usually loud, panicked, desperate. He had seen many in battle. But this one was different. Her silence was not fear. It was strength. She spoke again softly, more to herself than to him. But the dragon heard the emotion, even without understanding the words. Her voice was gentle, shaking with sympathy. The sound reminded him of something from long ago, something he thought he had lost forever. Slowly, she lifted one hand and touched the side of his face. Right below his injured eye, her fingers traced the old scars he carried. Long marks carved by countless battles. The dragon's breath shuddered. A deep sound like thunder hiding inside his chest, but still, he didn't pull away. The soldier's fear turned into confusion. Why is he letting her do this? Has he gone mad? Or is she controlling him? But the truth was simple. The girl wasn't controlling anything. She was doing something no warrior ever tried. She was listening. Even though the dragon could not speak in words, she understood his pain. She wrapped new cloth around his neck, tying it carefully. Her hands smelled like herbs and dust. The heat from his body warmed her face. But she continued, focused and determined. She worked until the herbs finally clung to the wound, sealing it slowly. Then something astonishing happened. The war dragon lowered his head fully to the ground, pressing his snout against the earth, a gesture of deep trust and surrender. A creature who had never bowed before kings or armies bowed now to a silent human girl. The crowd gasped loudly. Some warriors dropped to their knees, unable to believe what they were seeing. The dragon closed his eyes softly as she placed her palm on his forehead, that touch gentle, kind. full of quiet bravery, echoed across the valley like a message from another world. This moment would travel across galaxies. This moment would change the way the universe saw humans. A beast of war, a creature of destruction, had chosen peace under the hand of a girl who spoke almost nothing but understood everything. She stepped back slowly, her face glowing with relief and quiet pride. The dragon lifted his head to watch her, his golden eyes shimmering with something no one had seen from him before. The valley had begun to calm. But inside the war dragon's mind, a storm was rising. As the silent human girl pressed the herbs onto his wounds, a memory old, buried, almost forgotten started to wake up inside him. It was faint at first, a flicker of color, a distant feeling. A voice that no longer existed, but the more she touched him with gentle hands, the clearer the memory became. He had met someone like her before. Not her face, not her exact gestures, but her silence, her calm strength, her soft sadness. These things stirred something ancient in him. The dragon blinked slowly, lowering himself even more as the girl tied a fresh bandage across his neck. Her movements were careful, respectful, almost ritualistic. The way she leaned forward to check the wound reminded him of another human one from a long time ago, another child, small and gentle, who once saved him when he was young and trapped in the ruins of a battlefield. He had been alone back then, scared and shaking, flames dying inside him. No other dragons had come, no warriors, no allies. Only a little human child who had crawled under his wing and whispered soft things until he fell asleep. The dragon stared at the girl now, his golden eye narrowing. Was this human connected to that child? Was she her daughter? Her granddaughter? Or did fate simply repeat itself? The girl wiped her hands on her cloth, unaware of the memories she had awakened inside him. She glanced at his face and for the first time, smiled small, shy, and full of warmth. That smile made the dragon's heart twist in a way he did not understand. It felt familiar, painfully familiar. The warriors still kept their distance, watching with wide, confused eyes. One soldier whispered, "Look at him. He's studying her," another added. "Maybe he sees something in her that we don't." But none of them knew the truth. He was remembering the child who once changed his fate. The girl moved to his side, checking a deeper wound along his ribs. The dragon winced but didn't move away. The pain from the memory was stronger than the pain of the wound. He lowered his head fully, resting his jaw on the earth, making himself as small as a creature his size could be. The girl placed her hand on one of his old scars, one that had been there for decades. The scar was shaped like a crooked line of burned skin, carved into him by a powerful weapon. She traced it gently with her fingertips, and the dragon let out a soft rumbling sound, deep and emotional. The sound rolled across the valley like a whisper from another lifetime. It was the same way the old child once touched that scar. The same gentle movement, the same kindness, the same heart. Memories rushed back faster now, the child hiding under his wing, the child feeding him wild berries, the child cleaning his wounds with water and torn cloth, the child who promised, "You are not a monster," the child whose face he could never forget. Even after centuries of war, the girl stepped back and looked up at him. Her large, quiet eyes reflected his pain. She didn't know why, but she felt something heavy when she touched that scar. She felt a story inside it, a story she didn't know yet. She whispered something again, and even though the dragon didn't know the meaning, he understood the feeling perfectly. It was comfort. It was sorrow. It was a promise. The dragon lowered his head closer to her, almost touching her forehead with his snout. The girl didn't move. She stood completely still, letting his breath warm her hair, letting his presence surround her. She trusted him now, fully and completely. The alien commander whispered to his soldiers, "Look at them. They're talking without words," another replied. "No, Something deeper is happening. This is not just healing. This is recognition. But the most shocking moment came when the dragon, with slow, trembling movements, lifted his massive claw and placed it gently on the ground near her feet. It was a gesture dragons used only with their chosen companions, those they trusted with their life. The girl blinked, touched the claw with her small hand, and her eyes softened with emotion she couldn't explain. She felt like she had known this creature far longer than one day. She didn't know why, she didn't know how. But her heart told her the same thing his memories told him. Their paths were not meeting by accident. The dragon breathed out slowly, letting his memories settle. His old wounds stung less now, not because of the herbs, but because he no longer felt alone. For the first time in centuries, he remembered what it felt like to be cared for, and for the first time in her life, the girl felt a connection stronger than fear. The past and present had finally touched, and the universe was about to change because of it. The bond between them had begun, ancient, powerful, and destined for something far greater than either of them knew. The valley should have been calm now, but tension was rising again slowly, silently, dangerously. The girl was still tending to the war dragon's wounds, her small hands brushing over cracked scales and glowing burns. The dragon breathed deeply, trusting her more with every second. But the warriors around them, they did not share that trust. They watched with narrowed eyes, stiff shoulders, and trembling weapons. Some were scared, some were confused, but many too many were angry. They had spent years fighting this beast. They had lost brothers, friends, commanders, entire units to his fire, to them. This was not a creature in pain, this was their enemy, their fear, their nightmare, and they could not understand why a silent human girl protected him like a friend. The alien commander stepped forward, his face twisted with frustration. "This is our only chance to kill him," he said sharply to his soldiers. "He is weak, he is wounded. If we attack now, he will not survive." Some warriors nodded eagerly, gripping their spears. Their hearts were full of revenge, not compassion, but others hesitated, watching the girl so calm, so gentle, touching the giant beast's wounds as if he were simply hurt, not dangerous. The commander lifted his arm to signal the attack. But before he could bring it down, the girl stepped between them and the dragon. She didn't shout, she didn't speak a single word. She didn't need to. Her small frame stood like a wall, unshakable, unmovable. The wind pushed her hair. Dust swirled around her feet, but she remained firm, staring at the commander with steady eyes that didn't blink. The commander's jaw tightened. "Move, girl," he warned. "This creature has killed thousands." She didn't move. She only shook her head slowly. The dragon behind her growled softly, not at her, but at the soldiers aiming their weapons at her back. His wings twitched, his claws dug into the earth. The ground cracked from the force. Dust rolled down the mountains. The commander's soldiers stepped back in fear again. Even half dead, the dragon was still terrifying. One soldier whispered, "Commander, if we attack, the girl will die." "Then she dies with him," the commander snapped. "She has chosen the wrong side." The girl looked at him with sad eyes, not angry ones. Her silence made him feel small, weaker than any battle had ever made him feel. She raised her hand slowly and placed it over her heart, then stretched it toward the dragon, a silent message. "He is not our enemy. He is hurt, not dangerous. He needs help, not death." But the commander refused to believe it. His pride, his anger, his desire to be the one who finally killed the war dragon clouded his judgment. He lifted his arm again for the attack, his fingers shaking with rage. That was when the dragon moved. Not with violence, not with fire, but with protection. He wrapped his massive tail in front of the girl like a shield, a living wall of scales and strength. The warriors froze. The dragon wasn't preparing to fight them. He was preparing to protect her. The commander's eyes widened. He shields her? One soldier's voice cracked. "Commander, look at them. The dragon trusts her." "And she trusts him," another whispered. But the commander was blinded by fury. "This is manipulation. A trick," he shouted. "Dragons cannot bond with humans. This is impossible." Yet everyone could see the truth with their own eyes. The dragon's golden eye stayed focused only on the girl, full of worry, not rage. He wasn't protecting himself, he was protecting her. The girl turned and touched the dragon's tail gently, calming him, telling him without words that she was not afraid. Then she walked past the tail and stood in front of him again, her arms outstretched like a barrier between him and the warriors. Her legs trembled, but she didn't step back. The dragon rumbled behind her, lowering his head toward her like she was a treasure he refused to lose. His breath warmed her shoulders, but she didn't flinch. The warriors didn't know whether to fear the dragon or respect the girl. One young soldier finally dropped his spear. "Commander," he said, voice low, "if a human girl can see something good in that creature, maybe we should look again too." More soldiers lowered their weapons, unsure, conflicted, torn between duty and what they were witnessing. But the commander refused to bend. He aimed his spear, ready to throw it straight at the dragon's heart. Before he could release it, the girl stepped directly in front of him, so close he could see the tear shining in her eye. Her message was clear: "If you want to kill him, you must kill me first." The commander's fingers froze around his weapon. His throat tightened. He had fought monsters, soldiers, assassins, but he had never faced bravery like this. The quiet bravery of a girl who would give her life to protect a creature everyone else feared. And for the first time since the battle began, the commander hesitated. The war was shifting. The loyalties were changing, and the girl was becoming something no one expected. The valley felt different now, as if the air itself had changed its shape. The warriors stood frozen, unsure whether to continue the fight or drop their weapons. The commander's raised spear shook in his hand, but he still didn't throw it. Something in the girl's stillness had stopped him, something in her eyes, something in the way she protected the dragon with her entire being. But the truth was, she wasn't protecting a monster. She was protecting a memory, a promise, a secret she had carried her whole life. The dragon watched her carefully as she stepped forward again, her hands trembling slightly after standing against an entire army. His golden eye followed her every movement, full of worry and something deeper, recognition. The girl reached out and placed her hand on the dragon's snout again, calming him, reminding him she was still there. Still with him, still unafraid. The warriors stared at the two, confused, angry, curious, but ultimately powerless. They didn't understand why this girl was willing to die for this creature, why she would stand in front of a spear meant for him, why she would risk her life for something that had destroyed entire armies. But the truth was something even the girl herself had never told anyone. She was not just a quiet girl. She was the last daughter of a family who once lived among dragons. Her father used to tell her stories no one believed. Stories of humans who could understand dragons without words, who healed them, who walked beside them during old wars. Stories of a bond stronger than blood. She grew up hearing tales about a child who once saved a dragon and earned his eternal loyalty. Every night, her father repeated the same line: "A wounded creature is not dangerous. A misunderstood one is." She never forgot those words. And now, standing before the towering war dragon, she realized why those words mattered so much. She had always felt different. She had always felt drawn to creatures others feared. But she never knew why until the moment her hand first touched the dragon's scales. Her heart recognized him before her mind did. She felt the memory rise inside her like a dream returning home. She saw flashes of another human child, one who looked so much like her, whispering to a young dragon centuries ago. A dragon with the same golden eyes she saw now. The dragon blinked slowly. His breath warm against her back, he remembered too. He remembered the small girl who once saved him long ago. Now another stood before him, same spirit, same heart, same silence. The commander finally broke the moment with a shout. "Who are you? Why do you protect this beast?" His voice echoed through the valley. Sharp and frustrated, the girl turned slowly. Her eyes meeting his, she didn't speak not because she was afraid, but because she couldn't. Her father had told her she was born without a voice, but he also told her that some voices do not need sound to be heard. She placed one hand over her heart, then lifted it toward the dragon. A clear message even the commander could understand. He is not evil. He is hurt, and he is mine to protect. The commander clenched his teeth, feeling his authority slipping from his grasp. "You speak for a monster?" he shouted. The girl shook her head gently, then tapped the dragon's scales. She wasn't speaking for him. She was speaking with him. The dragon lowered his head next to her, resting it lightly against her shoulder. It was a gesture no warrior had ever seen from a dragon. A gesture of deep trust. A gesture dragons only gave to their bonded ones. The connection between them wasn't just healing. It was ancient. A soldier whispered, "Commander, look, the dragon listens to her like she's chosen." Another finished quietly. "No," said a third, voice shaking. "Like she's family." The commander's grip on his spear weakened. He could not strike her, not anymore, not after seeing the truth with his own eyes. The dragon lifted his head and let out a deep rumbling call. Not a roar of war, but a sound of awakening. A call of recognition echoing across the valley. Some warriors stepped back in fear, but the girl didn't move. His voice washed over her like a warm wave. She reached into her small bag and pulled out an object made of old leather, a tiny charm shaped like a dragon scale. A gift from her father, handed down across generations. She had never understood why he protected it so fiercely. Until now, the dragon's eye widened. He knew that charm. He remembered the child who once wore it. The silent girl finally understood her place, her purpose, her destiny. She was connected to the dragon in ways no one else could ever be. Not by blood, but by history, by memory, by a bond reborn. This was not a meeting of chance, this was a return. And the warriors who wanted the dragon dead
were now standing in the presence of a bond older and stronger than their entire army. The girl's secret was no longer hidden. She was the last link between humans and dragons, and the dragon once feared by all was now hers to stand beside. The sun was slowly rising over the broken valley, turning the sky soft gold and deep red. Yet no one looked at the sky. Every warrior, every traveler, every villager, every terrified soldier had their eyes fixed on the same impossible sight. The silent human girl, standing beside the war dragon like they were two parts of one story. For hours she had cleaned his wounds, touched his scars, and protected him from an entire army. And now, something in the air began to shift again. Slowly, heavily, with the sound of mountains waking, the war dragon moved first. His claws dug deeper into the cracked ground. The soil trembled beneath him. Then his great wings stretched outward, glowing in the new sunlight. Warriors gasped and stepped back even further, their weapons shaking in their hands. They had seen dragons rise before, but never like this. Never with gentleness, never with purpose, never with a human by their side. The girl placed a hand on the dragon's thick, warm scales, silently encouraging him. She didn't speak, she simply nodded once, slowly. Her small gesture carried more strength than the entire army's weapons. With a deep, earth-shaking breath, the war dragon finally stood. His full height blocked the rising sun. His shadow stretched across the valley like a living, moving mountain, even wounded. He looked unstoppable, ancient, breathtaking. A creature born from fire and storms, now alive again because of one small girl. The warrior stumbled backward in fear. He's rising. He will burn us all. This is the end. But something unexpected happened. The dragon didn't open his jaws to unleash fire. He simply looked around, calm and steady. Then he lowered his head toward the girl, his golden eyes soft and glowing. He bowed. A bow from a war dragon was not a simple gesture. It was a vow, a promise, an acknowledgement of something sacred. The girl reached up and touched the side of his face. Her fingers trembled not from fear, but from awe. She had healed him, protected him, stood between him and death, and now the greatest creature in the galaxy bowed to her. The commander fell to his knees, unable to hold his spear anymore. His voice broke. What are we looking at? A soldier whispered. A dragon choosing his human. Another murmured. A legend coming to life. The dragon turned slightly, stretching his massive wings, their edges cracked but strong. He beat them once the valley shook, dust spiraled into the air. He beat them again, warriors covered their faces from the wind. Then he lowered his wing to the ground beside the girl, like a ramp, an invitation, a silent message only she truly understood. Come with me, you are safe, you belong with me. The girl stepped closer, her heart pounding. She placed a hand on his wing, feeling the heat through the tough scales. Her father's stories echoed in her mind, stories of humans who once rode dragons, stories she thought were only myths. But now she realized they were memories of her ancestors, and she was about to become one of them. She climbed onto his wing, slow, careful steps, her hands gripping the warm, rough scales. The crowd watched with wide, breathless eyes. No one dared move, no one even blinked. The dragon lifted her gently onto his back. She settled between two massive spikes. The wind brushed her hair. The sky opened above her. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The dragon let out a deep call, not loud, not violent, but a call of triumph, a call of reunion, a call that echoed through the mountains like a heartbeat returning after centuries of silence. He spread his wings fully, the sunlight catching the edges like fire. The warriors could do nothing but stare. Some dropped their weapons, some whispered prayers, some cried, because they weren't just seeing a dragon rise, they were witnessing history rewrite itself. With one powerful leap, the dragon pushed off the ground. Rocks scattered, dust exploded, wind roared through the valley as he lifted into the sky. The girl held onto his scales, her eyes wide with wonder. Below them, the valley shrank. The army watched from far, far below. A girl who had no voice had become the voice of an ancient bond. A dragon feared by galaxies had chosen a protector. Together, they rose higher and higher, leaving behind fear, war, and doubt. In that moment, a legend was born, one that would travel across the stars. One that would be told for generations, one that would change everything.